911. Where's your emergency?
This is Alex Murdaugh at 4147 Moselle Road. I need the police to ambulance immediately. My wife and child just shot badly.
Okay, you said 4147 Moselle Road in Allison?
Sir?
You said 4147 Moselle Road in Allison?
Yes, sir. 4147 Moselle Road.
Stay on the line with me, okay? Yes, sir. Stay on the line with me, okay?
Today we're going to be discussing the downfall of one of the most prominent family names in the South Carolina area. Join me as I take a look at how Alex Murdaugh found his way to a lost society. In order to better understand how the story unfolds, we need to cover certain things like the family's background. I'm also going to go into some of the victims in the story as well, so this video may turn out to be a little longer than my first. This is a story that grabbed my attention when I first heard about it. It's one of those stories that sound like it came straight out of a movie, except it wasn't. For over 3 generations, members of the Murdaugh family served as South Carolina's 14th Circuit solicitor, the top prosecutor representing Beaufort, Jasper, Hampton, Allendale, and Collington Avenue, dating back to 1920 all the way back to 2005-2006. As you can imagine, this is a position that held a lot of power. They were basically in charge of prosecuting all criminal cases in the state's 14th Circuit District. Randolph Murdaugh Sr. was born in Varnville, graduated from law school at the University of South Carolina in 1910. After graduation, he started his own law firm in Hampton, South Carolina, and in 1920, he became the solicitor in the 14th Judicial Circuit. He held that position till 1940 when he died in a car accident. Murdaugh Sr. was succeeded by his son Randolph Buster Murdaugh Jr., who served from 1940 to 1986. Buster was known for being the opposite of his father. He loved chewing tobacco. He was even rebuked several times by the Supreme Court for his closing arguments in several death penalty cases. Basically, the man was extra. In some of the cases that he worked on, it stated that he rolled on the ground. In one instant, he had a water hose around his neck, acting like that was the murder weapon, and this caused him a lot of issues, but in return, it also was the reason why he was elected every time because of his antics. Buster was succeeded by his son Randolph Murdaugh III, who took office in '86. Randolph was married to Elizabeth Alexander, and the two of them had 4 children: Randy, John, Lynn, and Alex. Randy and Alex both would go on to join the family's law firm. Randolph would retire in '06. Alex married Margaret, and the two of them had 2 sons, Richard Alexander Jr. and Paul Terry. Growing up, most described Alex and Maggie as being a normal couple. Of course, they were more successful than most. Overall, they had a life that some could only dream about. That is until things started to slowly turn for the worse. From outside looking in, you would never guess the amount of corruption and secrecy that was associated with the Murdaugh family dating back to early 2014. It all started with the strange killing of Stephen Smith, a teenager from Hampton County who was found dead from blunt force trauma on a desolate road. No arrest was made in this case, but witnesses interviewed would repeatedly implicate Buster as having been involved in the murder. Around the same time, rumors began circulating around that more of the Murdaugh family may have been involved in the cover-up. Being that the Murdaugh family had so many legal connections, Alex had even helped some of the officers in the area with their own legal troubles. No motive was ever discovered for the death of the young teen, but it was public knowledge that he was openly gay, and Buster and Stephen were rumored to be intimate, but this was never proven. I don't know if this might have had something to do with why he was targeted, but it's worth mentioning. As you can imagine, growing up in such a powerful family can have negative implications on some people, if not raised properly with strong morals. Many have stated that although it was unlike Buster to be involved in such a situation, Paul, on the other hand, was more of the type. Paul had this I can do whatever I want attitude. After all, he was a Murdaugh. But it's this exact attitude that landed Paul in the spotlight later on in the story. Not much came from the investigation into Stephen's murder, so eventually it just became one of those whispers in town, and at the tail of those whispers were the Murdaugh. Fast forward a couple years, the Murdaugh's family was once again found in the spotlight of another controversial death. The victim was Gloria Satterfield, a 57-year-old widow at the time of death. Gloria was born on February 8 of 1961 in Hampton. She worked for the Murdaugh family as a housekeeper for over 20 years before the fateful day of her death. On February 2, 2018, Gloria suffered severe head injury when she allegedly fell down in the front steps at the Moselle Estates. She died February 26 of complications after suffering from a stroke. Since the incident was reported as a trip and fall, no coroner was ever notified and no autopsy was ever performed. Her death certificate stated Gloria died of natural causes, this according to a coroner who later testified that the reason given in the certificate was improper. Alex Murdaugh was also seen behaving suspiciously around the time of death. Alex made sure to arrive before the EMT got on scene to say that he heard Gloria mention that their dog caused the fall. But this contradicted Gloria's own statement later that she had no idea what caused it. I listened to the 911 call of Alex and Maggie calling about Gloria, and to me, they both sounded a bit bothered. Kind of like it was something they didn't feel like dealing with, but this is just how I felt about it. I'll play a clip for you, and you let me know in the comments if you think otherwise.
9:24 a.m. 38 seconds, February 2, 2018.
Come here.
911, where's your emergency?
4147 Moselle Road.
Okay, can you give me the address one more time, make sure I got it right?
Yes, 4147 Moselle Road.
Okay, what's going on out there?
I'm sorry?
What's going on out there?
My housekeeper has fallen and her head is bleeding. I cannot get her up.
Okay, you said she's fallen. She's bleeding from the head?
Yes.
Okay. How old is she?
I'm not sure, like 58 maybe.
Do you know if she fell from standing or not?
No. No.
Where'd she fall from?
She fell going up the steps, up the brick steps.
Okay, so she outside or inside?
Outside.
Okay. How many steps is there?
8.
Okay, is she on the ground or is she up near the
She's
top?
on the ground. She's on the ground. She's on the ground.
Is she conscious?
No, not really.
Is she awake at all?
Yes.
Okay. Is she just not, like, responding appropriately, but she is awake?
Man, she's not responding.
Okay, I've already got them on the way. Me asking questions does not slow them down, man. Knowing if she's conscious is one of the things that the medic needs to know if she's responding at all to you.
No.
Okay, so she's not responsive at all.
Well, I mean, she's mumbling.
Okay, so she is somewhat conscious. Is she breathing okay?
Yes.
Is she bleeding from anywhere?
Yes, her head.
Okay, are you guys able to control the bleeding?
No.
Can you
I
put
haven't
a
even
clean
tried.
rag or anything on it?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, is she bleeding from, like, her face, the back of the head,
I've got
her
an
neck?
ambulance coming. Sir, my name what?
Where exactly is she bleeding from on her head?
I'm not sure. At the top of her head.
Okay.
What's it?
Okay.
Oh, gosh.
What happened?
She just fell back down. Can I get off this phone so I can go down there?
Can I have your name and phone number? Are you able to bring the phone down by her?
What?
Are you on a cell phone where you can walk down there
I'm
and
on
talk?
a cell phone. No.
Okay, can you bring it with you so we can ask her some questions about what kind of pain she's having?
Hello?
Yeah, can you ask the patient what kind of pain she's having?
Ma'am, she can't talk.
Okay, do you know...
She's cracked her head and there's blood on the concrete and she's bleeding out of her left ear.
Okay, she's bleeding out of her ear?
And out of her head. She's cracked her skull.
Okay. All right, the other lady said that she had tried to stand up and fell down again?
No, I was holding her up. And
Okay.
she told me to turn her loose and she was trying to use her arm, but then she fell back over.
Okay, do you guys know who she is?
Yes, she works for us.
Okay, do you know if she's ever had a stroke or anything before?
Ma'am, can you stop asking her these questions?
I already have them on the way. Me asking questions does not slow them down in any way. These are relevant questions that I have to ask for the ambulance. One of my questions is, has she ever had a stroke?
I don't believe she's ever had a stroke, not that I know of.
Okay. Okay, is she able to talk to you guys at all, or is she unconscious now?
She's not unconscious, she's just mumbling.
Okay.
I believe she's maybe hit her head and maybe has a concussion or something.
Okay.
Maybe.
Do you know what her name is?
Gloria Satterfield.
You said Sattlerfield?
Ma'am?
You said Sattlerfield?
Sattlerfield.
Sattlerfield. Okay, what's the house look like out there?
It's offset off the road.
Okay.
It's a big house, got a wide driveway.
With a long driveway?
Yeah,
Is there a gate or anything down there that they're going to need to come through?
There's two big brick columns that have to come through.
Okay, but there's no, like, gate code or anything that they need?
No, ma'am. And tell them that they can look for a fellow on a 6x6 Ranger.
Okay.
Waiting on them in the road is green. You know what they probably know what the Ranger looks like.
Yeah. You said, like,
Fella's
green.
got on a black sweater,
Okay.
a hat, and pants.
Okay. All right.
All right.
If something changes with her, if she loses consciousness or anything like that, I need one of you guys to call me back right away, okay?
Okay, well, how long is it going to take? Because this take us...
That I don't know. I've had them on the way since Maggie first called me. They were toned right away.
Okay.
All right, but I think they're coming... Hang on 1 minute. Let me check. They're coming from somewhere on Belt Highway in Ruffin, okay? That's where their station is.
Thank you.
All right, but like I said, if something changes, call me back.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Gloria's two sons were awarded an insurance settlement of $4.3 million for the accidental and natural death, but they never received any money. Alex Murdaugh somehow was able to get the attorney to not speak to Gloria's family about any updates on the settlement. It was done legally by exploring different loopholes in the judicial system. Alex then opened an account which he was able to wire the money to through forgery. A year later, the Murdaugh's family was once again under the scope. This time it was Alex's son Paul who was in question. Paul Murdaugh was only 19 at the time, and I mention this because apparently alcohol was a big factor in this story. Paul was the youngest of Alex's children, and according to those who knew him, Paul often came off like an immature prince who believed that he can do whatever he wanted simply because of his family's name. According to reports, when Paul was only 17, he was accused of possession of alcohol and was charged with a misdemeanor for this incident. Alex, who was Paul's attorney on his trial, was able to get the charges dismissed after Paul completed an alcohol diversion program. Fast forward a couple years, Paul still hadn't learned from his previous trouble with the law as he decided to go out drinking with a couple friends one night. Investigators believe that around 6:30 p.m., Anthony, Mallory, Paul, and his girlfriend Morgan and another couple, Connor and Miley, had assembled at the Murdaugh's family river house. After partying a few hours, they made a stop to Luther's in the downtown area where Paul and Connor decided to have a couple more drinks before deciding to head back. The rest of the group stayed behind while waiting on Paul and Connor to come back. At some point during the ride back, the group began questioning whether Paul was too drunk to drive and suggested that Connor take the wheel instead. But this only triggered Paul as he would start taunting and turning the wheel abruptly, trying to scare the group. This made everyone uncomfortable and an argument broke out, but Paul refused to give up the wheel. Around 2 a.m., Paul left the will to go argue with his girlfriend, which she stated that he spit on her and hit her. Right before returning to the wheel, Paul accelerated and ran into a bridge. Everyone was ejected upon impact. As the group started to emerge from the water, scared and nervous, they realized Mallory was missing. Anthony, who was dating Mallory at the time, called 911 to report the crash. I listened to the 911 tapes, and honestly, you can feel the pain and anger in Anthony's voice towards Paul. It's obvious that this wasn't the first time Paul behaved in this manner.
I finally got to the point I grabbed my girlfriend and put her in my lap in the bottom of the boat and was holding on with my eyes closed. The next thing I know, I'm in the water.
He even says to a deputy at one point, "You know the Murdaugh family?" The officer responded, "Yeah." And Anthony responds with, "Well, that's his son. Good luck." To me, this sentence speaks volume to the amount of power that comes with the Murdaugh family's name. Even though you can hear Anthony saying that Paul was the one behind the wheel, the official report stated that Anthony wasn't sure who was driving. At the hospital where the group was taken, a nurse complained that Paul was being inappropriate and even told her she had a nice rack. Paul yelled at the officers questioning him. When doctors gave Paul a sobriety test hours after the incident, his blood and alcohol level was still 0.28. The legal blood and alcohol level is 0.08. At this point, Paul's father was already speaking to all involved and trying to get them not to say anything. Paul's grandfather stayed with Paul to make sure he didn't say anything more. Investigators and volunteers using rescue boats, divers, and helicopters spent 8 days searching for Mallory Beach. On March 3, 2019, 2 volunteers found Mallory's body about 5 miles down the river from the crash scene. A month after the boat crash, Mallory's family filed a wrongful death suit against the members of the Murdaugh family. On April 18, 2019, on what would have been Mallory's 20th birthday, Paul Murdaugh was indicted and charged with 3 felony counts of boating under the influence, including causing the death of Mallory Beach and seriously injuring 2 other passengers. Paul pleaded not guilty to all charges and was out on bond awaiting trial. Paul didn't spend a second in jail. He was able to continue going to school or parties or do as he pleases. After the crash, it was looking like Paul was actually going to get away with it. It's interesting to me, I read somewhere that the only cop who identified Paul as the driver in the boating accident was later fired for alleged drug use. But Paul was still facing 15 years behind bars. If he was found guilty of the charges, he was not going to be the only one facing losses. It's said that the district attorney were also looking into Alex's financials and property records because of the fact that the boat Paul was driving belonged to his father. But just 3 days before the trial set to begin on June 7, Alex made a frantic call to 911 stating that he had found the bodies of his son and wife, Paul and Maggie, shot to death at his hunting lodge in South Carolina.
Conner County Communications.
Carlton, I have an Alex Murdaugh on the line, caller from 4147 Moselle Road. He's advising that his wife and child was shot.
Okay, and sir, give me the address again.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay. Okay, and are they breathing?
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
My wife and my son.
Are they in a vehicle?
No, ma'am. They're on the ground out at my kennel.
Okay, and did you see anyone? Okay, is he breathing at all?
No, nobody.
Is she? Okay, do you see anything? Do you see anyone in the area?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
What color is your house on the outside? What color is your house on the outside?
It's white. You can't see it from the road.
Okay, is it a house or a mobile home?
It's a house.
Okay, and what is your name?
My name is Alex Murdaugh.
Okay, and did you hear anything, or did you come home and find them?
No, man, I've been gone. I just came back.
Okay, and was anyone else supposed to be at your house?
No, ma'am. Please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you. Okay, what is her name?
Maggie and Paul.
Maggie is her name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you. Me asking you these questions, don't slow them down, okay? And you sure they're not breathing? Is he moving at all, your son? I know you said that she was shot, but what about your son?
Nobody. They're not. Neither one of them's moving.
What is your telephone number? And does anything look out of place?
Ma'am, not particularly, really, no, ma'am.
Okay.
Are they close, ma'am?
Yeah, they've been en route with you ever since you've got on the phone with me. I have multiple people coming out there to you. Okay. I don't want you to touch them at all, okay? I don't know if you've already touched them, but I don't want you to touch them just in case they can get any kind of evidence, okay?
I'd already touched them trying to get to see if they were breathing.
Okay. Well, I just don't want you to move anything just in case they can get any kind of evidence, okay?
Oh. Ma'am, I'm going to call. I need to call some of my family.
Okay.
On this.
Well, do me a favor for me. Whenever you see the officer or the medics, because they're all coming to you.
Absolutely.
Okay. But we have them come in, turn on the flashes on your vehicle so they can see you, okay? You got the flashers on for me?
I do.
Okay. All right. Just whenever you see them.
Okay.
How old is your son?
22.
Okay. All right. We're getting them out there to you, okay?
And I will answer if you call.
All right.
This is basically, to me, where you could kind of see that Alex is slowly losing it. It's starting to look like he's trying to cover his trails because he's been doing this kind of stuff for a while. Things are coming into light. With the district attorney having to look into his finances and properties, it probably made him kind of nervous, like, okay, the only way for him to get out of it was by doing one of the most heinous things possible. A couple months after the shooting death of his wife and son, Alex was let go of at his own law firm when they found out he had been stealing money. Alex claimed this was a result of drug use and his family's death. The day after, Alex called 911 stating that someone tried to shoot him in the head. Alex was airlifted to a hospital but claimed that he was unable to provide any description of the shooter, even though he exchanged words with him. His car was also equipped with no flat tires, and police found that the tires were slashed with a knife belonging to Alex himself, and also his wounds were superficial. Soon after, Curtis Smith was arrested for conspiring with Alex to kill him so that his son could receive a $10 million insurance payout. Smith was charged with assisted suicide. Alex believed his son would not have received the money if he had done it himself. Over 30 to 50 victims of Alex Murdaugh has came forward with allegations that Alex stole money from them. The total amount could be as high as $20 million. On September 15, 2021, authorities announced they were opening a criminal investigation into the 2018 death of Gloria Satterfield. After receiving permission to exhume her body for further investigation, the family was eventually awarded more than $6.5 million during subsequent lawsuits. As of today, Alex Murdaugh faces more than 90 criminal charges including financial fraud, drugs, murder, and even narcotic distribution. It's crazy to me how someone can come from such a successful background and end up taking such a wrong turn. It's easy to look from the outside and say that they had everything going for them, but obviously there were some deep unresolved issues from the drinking, the drug use, partying with minors, stealing money from the dead. It's safe to say that Alex Murdaugh had no morals. Any person who is willing to kill or take advantage of a dead person for financial gain, to me, is one of the worst people to exist, and they belong with the worst of mankind. It's not like Alex didn't have enough money as it is, but greed got the best of him. It's clear that after so many generations of being in power, it started getting to the Murdaugh's head, and he truly felt invincible. I hope I didn't bore you too much with this. I could have made it even longer, but honestly, there is so much controversy involved with the Murdaugh that I may have to do a part 2 video on this. That's all I have to say on this topic. Please like, subscribe. I'm out.